Good morning. I wanted to give you a couple things you can do with that TRX strap. Even 10 minutes will give you a good little workout. And just think about most of this stuff is going to be done in a neutral position. So no tucking. When we get tired, sometimes we fall into that tuck. Just think about how you're reinforcing your neutral spine and pelvis, and have fun with it. There's some fun stuff. And mostly importantly, safety. When you're putting that little part of the strap into the door that holds the strap in place, it's best if you're doing it in a way that you're facing the door and it couldn't open towards you, even if somebody were to. It's like you're facing a door jamb where the door actually opens away from you. So safer. If you have a really solid door that you can lock, you can do it the other way. It's just a little more scary. So here's a couple really good ways to warm up. So you're just going to take yourself into lining the straps up, like your anchor points lining up with your center. So you're looking towards your door that you're using and you're just trying to feel nicely lined up, belly button to anchor point. Your handles can be obviously higher or lower, so adjusting them accordingly with those little strap pulls. I'm starting off with some tension on my line. There's no slack. My hands aren't too close to my body. My shoulders are going to stay nice and low. My feet are parallel. And I'm pretty much lining up with my ankles, knees, and hip joints in alignment first. And as I start to sit into an imaginary chair, my arms are going to end up out straight. My knees go no further than the middle of my foot, tracking those knees towards your second, third toe. And I'm in neutral when I'm sitting. So you've got your natural curve of your lower back. When you're in your lowest position for this squat row, you want to make sure that your pelvis is sitting perfectly neutral. Your glutes feel work. So when I'm sitting down here, I'm definitely feeling glutes. There's no low back loading. There's no knee pain. Those knees are tracking really well, nice and straight. You can take a look down at those knees at any point. Make sure that they're tracking towards the second, third toe, which is super important. And your shoulders are staying low because your lats are working. Your elbows are just pulling right close to your rib cage. Wrists are nice and straight. Using that breath in through the nose, into your belly. Trying to feel like you're connected to your body in a way that you're keeping yourself safe, taking a break whenever you need it. When this becomes easy enough for you, and you feel like adding more work, although be careful because you have that extra relaxant in your body, so we don't want to throw anything off. But you can add in a little bit of a leap. Just a really gentle little power off the floor. It adds the cardio in really quickly, but make sure you're landing into soft knees so there's no jarring in the knee joint when you do that jumping. And then take a nice little hinge. So feet right under hips, pointing parallel with your toes. Hinge forward, allowing your body to really stay neutral in that lower back line here. So we should be feeling lots of hamstring stretch, and you can bend and straighten. And really making sure that we're not letting our low back round out for this. My hands are going to stay. I just caught myself going towards each other with my hands, but I want them to stay about shoulder distance apart so that we don't do anything weird in our shoulder line. And if you were to see me from the straight up side right now, my pelvis would look really neutral. So there's that natural lower back curve. And then go ahead and send yourself out for one more nice breath of hinge, just really using that as your rest position at any point when we go through all these exercises. And then we're just gonna row. So you're gonna step your feet close enough to feel like your arms are starting. This is basically your end point and your starting point for a row. So my hands are right in front of my chest, not cramped up. My wrists are not too bent or anything. And then I just hang back to straight arms and pull in. And I'm trying to feel those lats again. No locking in the knee line, although there's not a lot of leg work to be had. We just don't ever want to lock our knees out. And then those elbows are pulling really close to our side body. You're staying perfectly plank-like, even as you're hanging back there. Pardon me. And this is the low row. So we should feel lots of upper arm, a little armpit, some lats. Nice straight line through your body. No neck stress is allowed, no upper trap stress. So none of this stuff up here. Want to feel that nice heavy depression. To make this a little harder for yourself, you can pull your elbows a little higher away from your body. So now your palms are facing a little more towards the floor. And you're just thinking about how you can still keep that low shoulder position. So that rowing idea Always with low shoulders, never shoulders up by your ears. So if you start to feel any upper top or neck stress because all that breastfeeding and all that, I'm sure those shoulders are taking a beating, you can come back to the low row. Just nice, tight little position where your elbows are in towards your body. Most of this stuff is done 40 seconds of work, 20 seconds of a rest. Usually the hinge is kind of our resting position. You can also do a little hanging towards the floor, give your body a big squeeze here. So at this point, my butt's right above the ground. I'm just hanging on by my hands. Take a little side stretch one way, looking under one arm and then the other. Big breath in, that whole high intensity interval idea of working and then resting, letting your heart rate come back down. Good for fat burning, not that you need that. And then right foot's coming into the anchor point line. So now I'm looking up at that anchor point. I'm trying to line it up with my second, third toe. Hands are out in front. I'm taking my other foot off the floor. And just for a moment, we're gonna focus on the balance work. So be as light as you can in your hands. This foot alignment is very parallel. Kneecap facing towards second, third toe. I'm not letting my hips sway out of line, nice and low hip line. And now I'm gonna start to hinge at my hip. So basically we're going out into airplane. Bend your knee enough so that your hips can stay super even with one another when you're out in that airplane position. And then we come right back up. You basically want your hip to stay right above your foot. You want to feel like your hip bones are both shining to the floor when you're done. And this hip that's got the lifted leg isn't like this. You're not going into one of those yoga moves. It's very even, very, very square with your torso and your hips. So we should feel, lots of leg, but the butt, that jean pocket area, when you're in this position, should be lit up. No low back stress, no knee locking. Make sure you're keeping a nice activated sensation in your lower quad. Those handles can help you a little bit, but don't rely. Try to feel like the balance is coming from your body. Your calf can get hot here, all those balancing muscles of your foot, leg. But mainly it's this glute connection. We really want to feel a little bit of belly support as you're here. Also, again, noticing hands are staying shoulder distance apart rather than going too narrow to one another. So we have our little bit of lat support here, so our shoulders are in a good low position too. My butt's starting to feel like it's actually lighting on fire, so I'm going to take one more and then give myself a little rest, swinging that leg. Dynamic hip swing moment, making sure there's nothing behind you that will hurt when you kick it. And just let those shoulders relax as you do this. Try to feel your body staying nice and tall over the standing foot, not locking out the knee you're on. Then you can roll that ankle around a couple times. Good. And then let's do a little hinge reset. So you're back into that hinging, stretching out your hamstrings, your hips, trying to stay nice and activated in your lower quad so there's no locking of the knees. This should just feel nice and happy. Decompressing the spine a little bit. Big breath in through the nose as much as you can. And now let's take that left foot in center with our anchor. So you look up at your little knot, you look right down, line it up with your second, third toe. Hands are here, but they're really light in the handles as we take our moment of balance challenge. Foot is parallel. You can do all those fun little things of turning your head side to side if you want to add more balance, or even just close your eyes for a second. See how that affects balance challenge. And now we're going to start to hinge on this side. Little bend in that knee, maybe a big bend if you're tight in the hammy like I am. Although this side isn't as tight for me. And now we start to hinge it. Again, noticing we have little light bulbs on our hip bones, pretend, and they are shining right to the floor as we're done with our hinge. Glute is supporting this position. We're nice and even in that foot pressure on the floor. Shoulders are out of our ears, just a little pressure into our hands. If you ever feel anything in your sacrum here, or little pulls or anything, just bend your knee a little more and see if that changes it for you. That's often the culprit, is the hamstring pulling on your pelvis in a way. People want to have their legs super straight, but that's not really effective for a lot of us. And again, some sides, one side is a little stronger than the other for most of us, so whenever you need a break, you take it. Breathing all that good breath in. It's fun to have some good music on when you do this. Zone out into that situation. Last couple here. Still considering that your knee is facing second and third toe, which sounds like it should be easy enough, but a lot of people end up having like a spiraling effect if their foot's not evenly pushed into the floor here, which is very normal. So last moment there, nice fiery leg and butt, and then we'll swing it. Give it a good little moment here. For this dynamic hip stretch, we're really trying to feel kind of lazy in our knee and our foot, and just give that front of the hip a good stretch, and then you get a little bit of that hamstring stretch as you kick forward, just freeing up that hip. Standing carefully on this leg now, making sure we don't hyperextend it. And then we'll hinge it, kind of just take a reset moment, both feet back on the floor underneath us, hinging forward into our good hamstring stretch that we can again turn into a little bending and pressing like we're massaging those hamstrings, asking these muscles here to fire. Breathing the breath, enjoying your moments of rest just as much as you enjoy the moments of work. And then we come back up. We're going to turn it around now, take this into a plank. So I think I'm going to take the little camera over this way so you can see the plank. We did this the other day, and it's one of those exercises that feels a little scary at first because you have to trust that you're going to lean in and really have support from those straps. So I'm starting off, you'll be, kind of back to your door here. Make sure those knees don't lock out. I'm going to lean into my hands like I'm planking on the ground here. So my body should be feeling like it's planking, lots of belly support, and I'm just going to reach forward and back. And obviously on the forward reach, that's when we're really asking those abdominals to work. We don't want to have any stress in our low back. Our hands stay shoulder distance apart. We have low shoulders. We have armpit fire. We have lats working. And you should feel a whole lot of low abdominal connection here. So making sure you only go to your level of challenge that's appropriate for you. Feel that power of breath feeding you. Noticing that at any point in that reach forward, when you're in your most challenging work, you have zero sensation of work in your lower spine. Just lots of good underneath those, think of all of your planking muscles, like what's facing the floor right now, your armpits, your belly, neck is in line with the rest of your spine. And then we can take a little travel forward to stretch those pecs out. So for this one, we're not leaning necessarily, like we don't want to use our muscles here, we want to let them go. So we're letting our arms get pulled behind us as I walk forward, big pec stretch here. And then you can switch which foot's forward, just so we're making sure we're nice and even with all that. Shoulders are still out of our ears. It's totally possible to overstretch, especially when you have that extra relaxant in your body, like you do for your, because of the breastfeeding. So make sure that when you're doing that stretch, you're feeling like there's a little bend in your elbows. The main intensity is through here, maybe down into here, but not into your elbow joint and not into like the top of your shoulder or your neck or anything. Just nice and opening the chest. And then we're going to take it into a push-up. We did this the other day too. So you might end up actually having to lower your straps a little bit, and it's just you'll play around with those and get comfortable with them. If you lower them both at the same time, they're easier to work with because then they're even right away. Making sure your anchor point's still nice and tight, and then your toes are on the floor, your heels are off the floor. I'm planking again energetically in my body. I'm going to bend my elbows and then push them straight. So the whole way through, we're feeling the plank, we're feeling those armpits, bending my elbows out towards the side, pretty wide here, but not higher than my shoulder line. Hard to see because I'm wearing all black. Chose my ninja move, my ninja clothing today. Let's do 2 more. You don't need a million of these. These get pretty challenging. We're gonna hold the last one halfway down and just try to power into those armpits, those belly muscles, feeling all that length in our spine, no stress in our neck for 4. 3, 2, and then press to straight. Walk back into your chest stretch. Enjoy the decompression. Give yourself a couple big breaths here, right into those muscles. And then we'll spin around. We're going to take it back to facing the strap. And then we're going to take some fun little side steps. So we want to think about this like we're doing, and I'll be coming towards you here. You're going to take a big step out, parallel foot, step out with your right foot, land it parallel, and then push into, pretend that you're up against a wall and nothing can go further into the wall. Your foot is parallel, your knee is pointing towards second, third toe, your glute is ignited, you're feeling that jean pocket area, your pelvis is neutral, and right now you can hold this and just feel it, It should be all this, some good leg, no stress in the back. And then this is a good place to just kind of stay and come up and down. My legs are pretty wide here. My other leg is getting a big stretch, the side that's staying straight. So you can stay like this for the first part of this, maybe just until you get really comfortable with the alignment, because the knee is not allowed to go further forward than your foot. It's like right above the middle of your foot. And then you can start to add a little more challenge by stepping up and down, and I'm hovering my foot. Pardon that car alarm. Cool, it's off. And then to make it even harder, making sure your knee joint is very happy, very placed, like you're lining up perfectly every time, you can add a little leap. Maybe not the first time, but you know, eventually on the other foot. Just taking the challenge appropriately. Sometimes, you know, it's not a day to jump, and that's okay. Make sure you land into a little bit of a soft knee there. One more. Handles are really just for balance here, and then we're gonna swing that leg again. And then we're gonna do a little hip swing, slightly different. You're gonna grab onto both of your straps with one hand, so I'm just grabbing here. I'm gonna take the leg that I was just sidestepping with and go across and out. So now I'm doing an abductor swing. A little awkward, don't try to get too big with it. And also the knee that we're standing on has to really work hard right here, lower quad area, so that we don't walk out or go lateral in our knee. Big breath in, exhale it out. We're gonna go the other way. So my hands are out in front of my strap. I'm taking a step out now with my other foot, landing parallel, pushing that booty back. So now you can see how this leg's straight, lower quad's working, my knees over the middle of my foot, my glutes feeling lots of work. I'm hinged forward at my hip, so I'm still neutral in my spine. And holding here, just making sure the connection is right, making sure your toes are facing the right direction, kneecap facing towards second, third toe. Nice strong glute there, and then you can just come just straight and bend back in. So this is the no impact version. Trying to stay super nice and connected to the muscles in the straightening leg, because it's getting a stretch, but we're not letting the knee lock out. Breathing all that breath, keep those shoulders out of your ears. And then if you'd like to add, and maybe this is, you know, maybe not the first couple times you do this, but maybe you add it in a week or two after working on all these positions, you can add in that little jump. Stepping out, making sure that the most important part of this, though, is, again, landing into that really good alignment. A lot of times the videos online show people doing things where their knee joint's really in not a good position. So you have to make sure that you're really focusing, especially if you're taking your foot off the floor and then going back into your step, that you really land parallel. Most of our feet want to land slightly externally rotated for whatever reason. And we just have to make sure we're really focusing on how our foot lands, making sure the butt goes way back there and engaging the glute. And it's not that you have to think to engage it, you just have to get yourself into the right position to load your glute well. So you shouldn't have to be like, oh, squeeze my butt. That's not something. You want to feel like, oh, I'm in the right position, so my muscles are loaded automatically. Let's move in to some single leg squats, which are going to feel, I'm bringing my straps up a little higher now. I've got myself all situated here so that my straps aren't going to be too low, because what I want to create is a nice position for me to start. There's no slack on my line. I'm standing my left foot in center, lining it up with my anchor point. My hips are nice and even. I'm going to start to travel backwards, letting my standing hip and knee hinge. I can put this foot on the floor if I need to, but I want you to, again, reassess what your knee is doing. A lot of times people do this and their knee is too far back or it's too far forward, and either of those things will end up damaging it. So your knee ends up just like before, facing second, third toe, right over the middle of your foot, no further. And then you can come up and down. When you get really good with this, glute, again, no surprise, your glute, your leg, no low back stress, your arms are working, so keep those shoulders out of your ears. This is called the balance back lunge. It's basically a single leg squat that kind of turns into a lunge if you land your foot down there. So if you're having an off day ever, you can leave that foot down and just pulse it out. So you've closed out the connection. Hips are nice and even. Sometimes people have low back problems when they try to do this one-sided work if they're off a little bit. So this would be a good choice if you're having a bad back day. I don't think you have too many of those, which is good. Just a couple more. You should feel some nice hot sensations in that leg and butt, and then give it a little swing. Let's take a nice stretch into that side that we just stood on. Grab your foot. Try to line those knees up. You can even squeeze your glute a little bit to add to that whole situation. And you want to make sure that your knees are lining up together. Not squeezing, but lined up. And your knee is in line with your hip. So it's not up front here, and it's not out to the side. Nicely lined up. Big breath in. Good. We'll turn around. Well, I'll turn around. You don't have to turn around for that stretch. I just wanted you to see the other position of my leg. And then we're going to line the other leg up. So now I'm going to my right foot, lining my right foot up with center, anchor point. It does matter when you're on one foot if you're off a little bit with that anchor, because you're going to feel it pull you to one side or the other. So I'm lined up, my foot's off the floor. I'm already feeling the balance. The first part of this exercise is being able to have your hips even here. So your glutes are already working a little bit, whether you feel it or not, if you're in the right position. Hinge hip and knee, nice and neutral in that spine. And then we come up. And at first, we're going to be landing that other foot to the floor behind us, but focusing mainly on that alignment that we've created here. Look down and make sure your foot is parallel. Your knee is, again, tracking second, third toe. You feel your glute. In that lowest position, your shoulders are out of your ears. Breathing all that good deep breath. Remember, you can always land it and do some pulsing. This is not a lazy way to work. This is just a closed connection way to work, a little more stable. Now this leg's getting some burn too, the bottom knee. Let's do 4 more. Breathing deep, keeping those shoulders out of your ears. Whew. Good. And then you can give yourself a quick little swing. And we'll stretch this knee out too, knee and quad. Trying to engage that glute a little bit of the stretching side. Breathing all the deep breath, let your shoulder relax, let your jaw relax, your eyebrows are mellow. Just the intense sensations where you need them. That foot can come down. Let's do a little reset moment, hinging forward, bending the knees, but not letting the low back round as you straighten them out a little more, activating those lower quads for all that good knee support they give us. Good. And now we're going to turn this into some plank work, which we did a little bit together. You want to be super careful. Again, it's easier if you're unloading your straps at the same time. And then check out your strap. Make sure that your lines at the top are even. These guys are even, because it will matter. You know, remember the strap saws. So if you're heavier on one side of your body, as far as usually one of our legs pushes down a little lower to the floor at first, we want to keep those feet super even because we're working in a plank, but we don't want to be working in a plank in a crooked position because then we're reinforcing that in our body. So having a mat under you will be good for plank time because you're going to be on your knees for a little bit. So feet are going to go into your straps. You want to make sure that as you set one foot in there and then the other, you first take a moment to look behind yourself and make sure that they're even. Make sure that those little handles are even so that the straps are evenly lengthened. And then check out that your strap is coming straight at you rather than pulling to one side or the other. Door frame's a little different, so you want to be able to really feel like you're super even here. Hands are going to come down right under your shoulder line. Ready to go. Powerful belly. Before you even take yourself off the floor with your knees, you're considering, what does plank feel like? What does it feel like already? We should be pushing our arms strong but not locked out. A little bend in our elbows. The hands are directly under your shoulder line. So if you put your hand up here and push straight to the floor, that's the right position. A lot of people end up way out here for plank, and that's bad for your shoulder. So nicely placed underneath you. Push into your knuckles. And then we take a big exhale and float those legs back out. Make sure you stay lined up. I don't want to see like this. It's terrible for your back. I'd rather see you too high than too low. And then from there, you can do some hiking. You might be ready for a break after one, and that's okay, especially as you begin. You're gonna see your endurance really improve quickly. But give yourself a break in between. Take your breath, give yourself a moment to unload your wrists and all that, and give them some stretching with tight little fists. You can also, if you start to get a little wristy and you're over it, you can put your elbows on the floor, put your hands together, and squeeze them together so you feel your armpits really working, and then go out into a plank like that. Just takes that wristing out of it. And then again, you could peg here, kind of creating like a dolphin. You can open and close your legs, all kinds of fun stuff. Number one, though, is to make sure you're feeling super strong in your belly the whole time. If your abs turn off, something else is going to be working, and it's probably your back, so be careful. One more thing here for plank. We're going to do a little crow pose. So super strong, super careful, power up off the floor. Hike up a little bit, pull those elbows towards knees, or really it's knees towards elbows, right? And then go back out. Pull it in, and push it out. And just gently coming back down whenever you need to. I'm gonna let my elbows come down so I can put my wrists out. Roll those wrists a couple times. Big breath in and out. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and face my straps. Grab onto these guys. We're gonna do some fun stuff here for our abs again, but facing a different direction. So depending, again, I don't want you to feel like you have to reach your leg too high to get into this strap here. So they're low enough to be able to put an ankle through. So now my foot is in there. I've got myself lining those evenly up here. My hands are gonna come next to me. My fingers are gonna point forward or to the side, but not backwards. I'm gonna keep my shoulders energetically behind me. I wanna try to feel like I'm squeezing my upper back a little bit to keep them in a nice back and low position. And then as I push my butt off the floor, I'm feeling the work. I'm gonna reach myself forward into like a backwards plank. Don't lock your elbows out. And then exhale, pull, 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 backwards pike. And exhale, pull, pull, pull. I actually have really long arms, so a lot of times in a class, back in the day when we used to be in a class, there's a lot of people that couldn't actually clear their butt, like their butt would be dragging along the floor a little bit. So you could always put yourself up a little higher on some yoga blocks with your hands, or just lift your straps higher so that your legs are a little bit higher. But this backwards piking, super good for deep low abs. You can even hold it and just pulse. Super hard. If you can't do it right away, don't feel bad, because it's definitely a strange position to get into unless you were a gymnast or something when you were little. So now grab onto your handles. You're gonna set yourself up for a little roll back. We're gonna try to keep our spine really long, neutral. So we're hinging backwards. Use your arms a little bit, but use your abs mostly to hinge back and then to come back up. Hinge back. So super low ab connection here. Try not to get rounded out. It's harder to work your abs in a long, long position, and it's more effective too. So feel yourself staying all nice and long there in the spine. We can do one more, and then we're gonna allow our head to come all the way to the floor. So use your arms enough. Let your body rest to the ground. Drop into your soft bottom cradles now. I've got these in my hands instead of the foamy ones. And then I'm gonna bring my heels into the strap. So now, like straight up strap. Or what's it called? I don't even know. When you're at the gyno, you know, you're all loaded, ready. So don't think about that right now though. You're gonna send your legs out long. Your arms can just rest by your side. And you're gonna start swinging. And this is really just a nice little release moment. You can slide your arms behind you. It's like you're being rocked to sleep. And just letting it be super mellow. Don't, be mindful that you're not gonna hit your ankle bones on anything. That would be terrible. Just enjoying this little moment. Giving your hard-working mom, brain, and body a moment to really enjoy something and appreciate your body for all it's doing right now. Breathing into your belly, letting your eyebrows and jaw stay super relaxed here. And then pausing with the rock. We're gonna bend those knees back in towards our body. Now we're set up for some bridge. These are really hard bridges. The straps are very volatile, so we have to think about how strong we have to be in our hammies and our glutes, our belly as well. Use your arms and squeeze your shoulders to the floor and lift your hips up. So now hamstrings are talking already, I'm sure. You can do a little reach and pull. Just don't let your legs go too straight. Really using those arms. I'm gonna hinge back to the floor. And let's talk about how it was a hinge. I didn't say that before, but it was a hinge from your, like right now I'm hinged into my hips because I'm neutral. And then I'm hinging up and I'm not rolling or rounding my spine. There's nothing wrong with that articulated bridge. It's just that we are really discovering now that it's much more effective to work in a neutral position for most people, because that's how we want to walk around. So, you know, kind of, you know, if you're in a class and they're doing a lot of C curve, a lot of articulation in the spine, it's not bad if it doesn't hurt your back, but a lot of people's spines don't really feel great after they do all that. That's my talk about the spine stuff. So I think that's it for today. That's a good start for you. Just try to do it at least twice a week. If you're gonna, you know, just if you're not doing any other, like if you're doing walking, of course you're walking and all that, but super stabilizing, like really building up your glutes, your evening out everything, your shoulder stuff, all those stretches for your pecs, super important, and just always keeping your spine in line with the rest of your body. A lot of times when people do those stretches, they let their head like fall forward, and just consider what you're doing with your neck, because you're already doing a lot of hard stuff with your body for that cute little baby. So I hope you have a great day, and I hope you enjoy the straps. Okay, bye.